We are so happy to have you on with us today because we know if we see your name, that means we're getting good music, and of course this is no exception here. And what a beautiful thing to work on. You must have, when you heard about this one, you must have thought, I got to do this, right?
Absolutely. How do you know that? Of course I did. Of course I did.
Well, yeah, I mean, you sometimes come in with a little bit limited information, and sometimes I think what people don't realize with composers is that sometimes you get a full, show to look at. Sometimes you get a script. Sometimes you get just notes. And where did you come in here?
Well, I to be honest, I had not read the novel. I mean, I knew about the
Mhm.
novel, but the last couple of years were really intense between work, between my daughter that it's very little, and my reading time went down, so I was behind. And
Yeah.
then when I got the call for this show, of course I read both the scripts and the novel, and it's such a amazing piece, such a wonderful piece. So of course it's one of those where you know already how great it is way before you start. Unlike other projects where you don't know exactly what you're doing, and then you realize along the way how good or not it might end up being. But this was like a big promise.
hmm Well, and of course, when they announced the casting, did you know at that time? Because when you've got someone like that leading a show, that it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Yes, I did know. I did know about the cast when 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 I got the call, and not only the novel, but the 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 writing is so perfect. Ben Vanstone's writing is always so perfect, so balanced. It's so hard to adapt a novel into, episodes, and you have to leave things outside, of course, and also you have to work in your cliffhangers, and to leave the audience wanting more. And the writing is just fantastic. And then,
hmm
of course, they sent me pictures of the of the set, which was absolutely incredible. So I had everything to fall in love with for this project.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember that first piece of music that you heard, maybe in a TV show or a movie, that just kind of was the bug that bit you, that made you think, "Ooh, I want to do this."
Oof, that must have been very early. Um, I do remember I do remember watching Italian cinema because my parents are both in the movie business, down in Argentina, and I had the good or strange luck of watching like grown-ups movies when I would watch Tarkovsky and Ettore Scola and Fellini when I was, I don't know, 4 or 5, which I'm not sure I'll do with my daughter, but for me it was great because I remember watching Fellini's movies and Amarcord, for instance, and it struck me, and then later on uh Cinema Paradiso, Morricone, and so Italian cinema, I would say, was key and left a strong print early on.
Yeah. Well, now, of course, people are looking up to what you do, and they think, "God, that would be so great. It'd be the greatest job in the world." And sometimes it is, but it's also very tough. And so what kind of advice would you give to someone that wants to do what you do?
Oh, that's very kind of you. I really appreciate it. Uh, I mean, you have to be very patient and keep on going and insisting because um, I've been doing this for 30 something years already. I started very young. And of course, my first shows and my first movies weren't as fantastic as my latest shows and my latest movies. So it takes a long way. And you know what? I'm very glad that I got the movies that I got because I think eventually uh, it would have been great to come across a project like this 20 years ago, but I'm sure that I wasn't up to what it takes to write for this. And I'm not talking about musical skills. Of course, I mean, I studied music since I was 5. It's about filmmaking, not about music so much. It's to understand what you're gonna say, and also, especially when you grow up a little bit, to be able to not say so much, not wanting to say it all, because it's such a great show, and such that you're very tempted to, to give it all. And I think part of the key of good narrative, for everything, for music and for writing and for everything, is not saying it all the time, but giving some information and saving some for later, and especially with a project that is so rich, so full, because the performances are so rich and the text is so fantastic. So sometimes in this one, I would just have to restrain a lot, my wantings to go all over the place, because very often it was the most effective thing and the most impactful thing, just to hold it. And of course, some other times I did go all over the place. I did.
Yeah. Well, we talk about really going forward over here on the show. My co-host Drew Pearson is one of our American football greats. He caught the Hail Mary, went in the Hall of Fame. We're so proud of him. And then, of course, that term, the Hail Mary, translates now, into just, you got to just throw it and go for it. And so, what was that moment for you in your life or your career where you just thought, okay, I got to do this?
Well, I was probably doing that, but it took me, another few years to realize. But for instance, when I got to score The Secret in Their Eyes, of course, it was a turning point. But I have to say, I didn't realize when I was doing it, I was just writing another movie. It's my job. I tried to do my best, but I wasn't aware. I thought it was a great movie. I was aware it was a great movie, but I never thought it would have such a strong impact on everyone, and of course in my career after that. And then some other key moments where maybe I wrote something, and I remember writing for Watership Down, the animation series, and I was so happy about it, and I thought, wow, this has to do something, for not only for me but for everyone that's working on the project, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen right away, because things don't happen when you expect them to happen. They come when they come, if they do. And many years later, I got the call to do the English. And so I realized, oh well, so it did make an impact, because it was not a call of it was not one of those, well, you are in the mix for this project among other 10 composers. It was, I want you to write for this. So I slowly realized, well, eventually everything we do make a difference. Only that sometimes we're able to realize that right away, and sometimes it happens later on, or maybe with some other things it just doesn't happen. So I think those were like 3 key moments in my career where I thought, well, that did make a gear change.
Yeah, absolutely. And but of course, we're, as creative people, we're notoriously hard on ourselves, and sometimes the right note doesn't come, or the right chord, or whatever. And so, what do you keep in mind that kind of keeps you on the right path even when things are tough?
I try to, especially with film music, because as you probably know, I write for the scene, for films and television, and then I write for the concert hall. And when you write for the concert hall, it's very easy to go, to the hole where you're trapped and you don't get out. But when you write for a show, I mean, you have a deadline that it's very strong and very tight and very demanding. So at this point, I try to keep a balance between what I would like to do and what I need to do. And very often I would just sit at the piano or wherever I'm writing, and I do my homework for the day. Like, I make sure that, say I have to write whatever, a 60 minutes of music in whatever 10 days. Okay, so I write my 6 minutes. And then I start to write what I would like to write. And sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I do reach that apparently desired layer or stage where I do write something that I think is very cool. And it's very funny because eventually, and more than once, I would send like 2 options to the filmmakers, and they would not always pick what I thought it was the most refined and sophisticated version. Because sometimes, of course, we put a lot of thought, especially when we start a project, what's going to be the palette of a project, what the story is about, and then you start writing, and it comes, you get to a point where intuition starts to act in its own, and you see it and you respond to a scene and you write. And I try to do it. I try to write, and then I go and write a second version and a third version and a fourth version, and then the next day I probably throw away 80% of that. But it's funny because more often than not, the first take on something has like a fresh approach, apparently less rational, but very sensitive, because you had been thinking about the show, you had been working on your themes, you had been so it is, sometimes I talk to whatever tennis player or like high end or high competition sportsmen, and I know they don't think when they do certain things. It's more like a reaction, and I don't want to say that music works in the same way, but once you have done your homework, your thinking, your reflection, you have listened to different pieces of music, and things do come on its own, despite your will, which is great. Because there's a lot less neurosis involved in the process,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then, I love looking inside your mind to see, where all this beautiful things come from. Like I said, as soon as we see your name, we know that we're getting good music. So last thing, what else are we going to see from you coming up? Because, either on the screen or off the screen, because it's always something good to look forward to.
Well, thank you. Well, actually, I'm now working on another Brit show that it's called 1,000 Blows, and it's a creation by Steve Knight, the creator of Peaky Blinders. Stephen Knight started this project, and actually most of the team, filmmakers, producers, performers of Peaky Blinders went on this wonderful project. Also period piece, in this case is 1890s, so a few years before Gentlemen, and I'm now working on that one. And then I'm in the concert where I'm working on a commission for a violin concerto. So I'm keeping busy.
Yeah, sounds very busy. Well, we definitely appreciate your time and definitely appreciate all the great insight and your work on the show. It's fantastic. If people haven't seen it, we're going to tell them to check it out. We look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.